In the previous video, we looked at the lead up to the debut of the Star Wars prequel trilogy with The Phantom Menace in 1999, and the backlash it got from a large portion of the Star Wars fanbase. While the movie certainly had its low points, was the negative reaction earned on merit, or were the fans expecting something that Lucasfilm simply would not be able to deliver? The idea of a Star Wars prequel or sequel trilogy was obviously something that had excited die-hard fans for many years, to the point that it would have been practically impossible for George Lucas to deliver a movie that would have had a hope of living up to expectations. There was literally no margin of error because, as we saw, Star Wars fans would not accept anything less than perfect. I think part of the problem here is that most fans have a fundamental lack of understanding about how storytelling is supposed to work, and why Episode 1 didn't dive headfirst into the key turning point moments. People wanted to see Anakin turn to the dark side. They wanted to see the accident that left him in the Darth Vader suit. They wanted to see who Luke and Leia's mother was. They wanted to see the destruction of the Jedi, and so on. There's a couple of problems with this mentality, and it's really a matter of pacing. People wanted to see all the things I just mentioned, and they didn't want to wait to see them. I get that. I was looking forward to seeing all these things play out too. But if you have Anakin turn to the dark side midway through Episode 1, then there's no story left for Episodes 2 or 3. You had 3 longer than average movies to fill, and you would have had nothing left if you blew through all those elements in the first movie. You also need to set up the big moments and provide a context that gives you a reason to care when they go down. Once again, I'll go back to Anakin. If he just walked into the Jedi Temple and skewered Mace Windu out of the blue, then okay, we know he turned evil, so I guess it's in line with what we expected. But there really wasn't much substance to it. Now, on the other hand, knowing that Anakin grew up a slave, was freed and made a Jedi, but did so at the cost of being separated from his mother, the only family he ever had, grew up coping with the struggle between how powerful he was, how powerful he could be, and the difficulties he had fitting within the confines of the Jedi Code, finally returning to Tatooine to see his mother, and finding her moments before her death in the captivity of the Sand People, how he then flipped his lid and wiped them all out, even though he knew it was wrong, fell in love with Padme, married her in secret at the risk of losing his place in the Jedi Order, found out she was pregnant, began having dreams that he would lose her too, was given a hope of saving her by the very man he had spent his life trying to seek out and destroy, and then had to make an on-the-spot choice between everything he had ever known as a member of the Jedi Order and throwing it all away to save the woman he loved, you come away with a much, much clearer understanding of why he not only did what he did, but you also realize that Anakin actually thought he was the good guy for doing it. In his place, many people would honestly have a hard time doing things any differently than he did. And that wasn't the only storyline that had to be slow burn. We had to see how Palpatine spent close to 20 years playing the long game and manipulating everyone into handing him the dictatorial power he wound up with. We couldn't just have him show up and be the evil Emperor of the Galaxy. We already saw that in the original trilogy. We needed to see him instigate the Naboo crisis to force Chancellor Valorum out of office and take his place, control both sides of the war, simply to be granted emergency war powers, and then bait the Jedi into attacking him in order to declare them enemies of the Republic, and transform the Republic itself into an empire. We had to see how the Jedi went from being a highly respected group of warrior monks who were relied on to keep the peace in the galaxy to completely losing their way and ultimately being destroyed after being named public enemy number 1. We saw how they didn't take the Sith threat seriously and refused to even entertain the idea of training Anakin until they grudgingly did so after the death of Qui-Gon Jinn. We witnessed them at the height of their power, yet still failed to detect their worst enemy operating right under their noses at the highest position of power until it was already too late. We had to see what made Padme important beyond just being Luke and Leia's mother, how her relationship with Anakin affected so many of the major turning points in the movies, and how her death left Darth Vader the empty shell of a man we saw in the original trilogy. She could have been a footnote in Luke and Leia's backstory, sure, but instead, she was a fully fleshed out character who became a leader, very much in the mold of what her daughter would later become as a member of the rebellion. These were all things that needed to happen in order to deliver a complete story arc, but too many fans didn't have the patience for that. They had already given up on the prequels, which is too bad because Episode 2 Attack of the Clones was a much better movie that avoided many of the things fans didn't like about Episode 1, and we'll explore that movie further in the next video in this series. For now though, thanks for watching this video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and whether you think fans should have been more patient about letting the prequel story arc play out, or if the pacing really was that bad. If you'd like to support the Star Wars Wavelength channel, please click subscribe to be notified whenever new videos are posted. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you. Always.